Hey masters, I'll be doing some basic API testing using Playwright, using the Node.js API. It means JavaScript or TypeScript. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. We're gonna be doing some post, get, update, and delete requests and some basic assertions. Let's go ahead and take a look at how it works. Okay guys, let's start reading a little bit the documentation here because they are providing us a very interesting hint. Okay, so they're telling us that, for instance, they're gonna be connecting the framework to the GitHub API and it requires an authorization. So in our Playwright config file, we can define some parameters in our use object. Okay, so for instance, we can declare our base URL, of course, right? And also, for instance, GitHub requires a couple of headers, the accept one with this particular property or value, I'm sorry. And also we have the header for authorization. We need a token. So this is the way of how we can grant access for every single test in our framework in a general way, right? Configuring this in our playwright.config.ts. If you want to, this is a very interesting way to do it. In my case, I have done something similar, but I just need to define my base URL, http column localhost colon 3000 because that's the port that I need. Okay, so that's it, guys. In my case, that's the only configuration that I need to do to make sure that my framework is pointing to this application in my local environment. Okay, so that's beautiful. Let's continue with the video. First, let's start doing some basic API requests. For instance, how to create a to-do in the to-do application. Okay, so let's imagine that I want to create a new to-do and you want to check the network request that is going to happen. Okay, so I'm gonna just press enter and you can see the operation here. Okay, so if I expand a little bit this, you can see that basically I'll be sending an API request with the request method post, right? And basically I'll be sending the request to the to-dos endpoint here. Okay, so it should return the 201 created status code, and that's cool. And that's it. Basically that's the headers part and all the stuff that you need to know. But now if we click on payload, you can see what I need to send to the API to create a new to-do. Okay, I need to send the completed, I need to send an ID and a title. So you can see that completed by default is gonna be false, because if I send this in true, basically we're gonna delete our to-do in the to-do list. Okay, so that's what is going on. Then we have an ID that is going to identify the to-do in the list, and then we have the title, which is going to be new to-do. This is basically a string. Okay, so with this set, I think that we can start creating our post request, right? Because that's the request method that we need, and we need to send this body, this JSON file, right, or JSON structure, right, to the API. Okay, so in order to do it, I'll be opening my Visual Studio Code text editor, and under test folders, I do have a promo folder here. Okay, and you can see that I have the API basics.spec.ts file. Okay, so basically you can see that I have everything set up because I don't want to write every single line of code. But basically I have the constant data, right, that has a pretty similar structure than the payload that I have here. So let me show you this. It has the completed properties set to false. That's correct. Then we have an ID. It is gonna be number 3. All right, then we have title. The title is gonna be start learning about cloud. This is gonna be the item in my to-do list. Okay, and that's it, guys. All right, that's basically the data that I need to send to the API to make sure that, or yeah, that's the standard that we need to follow, the body, right, the payload. Okay, so that's it. Now if you see, basically I'm importing from Playwright test, the test constant, right, and also the expect that is going to help us to make some assertions. Okay, so in the first test over here, you're gonna see that I have a test name should create a new user by API request. Okay, you can see that I'm also importing the request context here, right? This is gonna help us to make post requests, get requests, and so on in a very friendly way. All right, so I'm gonna open my test snippet here, and you can see what is going on. Let me explain you line by line what is going on here. So in the line number 9, I have declared a constant. The constant name is new to do response. Why? Because I'll be saving the response that I receive after I make a post request. Okay, so you can see that I'll be doing await request that post. Remember that the request context is something that I have imported here over here, right? That's cool. And then I need to pass a couple of parameters. All right, the first one is going to be the endpoint to do's. Why I'm not specifying the URL, the complete URL here, because it is extracting the base URL from my playwright config.ts file over here. Okay, I'm sorry if you're listening and raining in the background, but well, that's the way of of the weather where I live. All right, so I'm sorry about it. So once you have this and you know that you're gonna be doing a post request to the to-dos endpoint, right? Because that's something that we saw also in the network part when we are creating a new to-do over here. Let me show you this. Localhost 3000 / to-dos. That's the endpoint, all right? And then I'll be sending as a second parameter in the post request the data body over here, okay? So you can see that basically I am sending completed, false, ID 3, title, and that's it. Now, as soon as this request is going to happen, we're gonna have a new to-do in our list. Let me prove you that, okay? I'm gonna delete the new to-do item that I just posted before, right? And I'll be opening my the new UI mode that Playwright has. All right, let's remember I explained to you this in the last video. I also explained to you how to install Playwright from scratch. So just look for JoanMedia, how to install Playwright, and you're gonna have the video over there. Okay, but this command is basically npx playwright test. Then I'm gonna specify the test file that I want to run. In my case is API basics.spec.ts, and then I'll be sending the flag --UI, so I can send every single request that I'll be sending and also the assertions. Okay, so I'm gonna enter. I'm gonna press enter in my keyboard, and it is gonna open the new UI kind of mode that Playwright has. Okay, so if I open this, I'm gonna stop the watch all. It was already stopped. Okay, so I'm gonna run, right? My test should create a new user by API request. Okay, so I'm gonna run it. Okay, and if you check now the UI, we do have the new to do in our to do list. Start learning about cloud. And let's analyze the code, because I'm doing 3 assertions here. Basically, I'm checking that the status is 201. That's beautiful. I'm checking that the status text is created. All right, and also I'm checking that the JSON response, the body, is equal to the data that I have in the variable, just to make sure that every single detail that I'm posting in the API is the correct one. Okay, so if you see, every single action that I'm having here is doing that stuff. Let's analyze also what is presenting us here, the Playwright framework for analyze. So the first thing is the API request context that post. You can see all the details here in the log part. Okay, basically I'm just sending this to the to-dos endpoint. This is the post method. This is the JSON data that I'm sending for the post, and also here you can see every single detail for the response. For instance, the URL, the status 201, status text created, and so on. That's all the details that you need to know about the response. Okay, but then you also can see the assertions. For instance, here I'm checking that it has 201 as expected, right? Also, I wanted to make sure that it has created, right? And also I wanted to make sure that the object that is returning is working as expected. And I can prove you that the assertion is working, right? Let me show you this. Let's imagine that instead of testing the response against this property or object that we created before, we're gonna change the title here just to make sure that the assertion is working, right? So I'm gonna make an assertion to see if the new to do is matching the title hello, right? I'm sorry, there it is. So I'm gonna save this. I'm gonna make sure that I delete the to do with the ID 3 in the UI, right? That's it. And then I'll be executing this again. Right, and now we do have an issue, right? Because the title right now is hello, but in the past it was start learning about cloud. That's basically the one that we have sent to the API. So I just wanted to prove you that the assertion is working right and everything is as expected, right? So that's beautiful. Now that we know how to post a new request, in the next part of the video I want to show you how you can get an API request using Playwright. Alright masters, let's continue with the next example of how you can get every single item that you have in an API using a GET request, okay? If you access the UI, right, and you inspect again with the network tab open, you're gonna know that when you refresh the website, you're gonna have this particular request over here. If you access the headers, you can see that the request is sent to the to-dos endpoint, right? And also the request method that I'll be using is cat, or the application is using is cat, okay? You can see that in the response part, basically it is going to return every single item that we have in the to-dos API, okay? With this said, I want to do the same stuff using Playwright, but now then I want to make sure that the item that I just added before, which was start learning about cloud, is included in the GET request, okay? So I'll be doing that. As soon as I create a new user by API request, in this particular case, it is important to have isolated test. That's important. It is just for demo, okay? So I just wanted to clarify that. So I should get the to-do by API request, the one that I just added before, okay? I don't know why I have user here. I think that I was using another API in the past. I'm sorry. Okay. Here I have user as well. Okay. So I'll be creating or using basically the same strategy. I'll be creating a constant named getToDoRes, okay? And instead of sending a post request, I'll be using a get request. You can see that the only parameter that I need to send is the to-dos endpoint, okay? And also, you can see that I'll be doing something different here. I want to create a constant named body, okay? And the body is going to have the body request, but because I have done this before, right? If you remember in the last expect here, yeah, I am doing something interesting here. I'm making an assertion immediately, but now I'm assigning the body to the constant here. So I can access the constant then, and I can do to contain equal and make sure that the data information that I posted before is inside of the body with every single item that existed before. There is another way to do it in a single line, and it is okay as well, but this is the way of how I did it in this example. So I'm gonna show you that this is working. I'm gonna create a new to-do by API request, okay? You can see that it is inside of the to-dos list, and then I want to make sure that it gets the API request and then the object is inside of the to-dos list. Let's make a negative assertion to make sure that this is working fine. Okay, let's imagine that I want to make sure that and a different item is added to the list, right? And now we have the ID 4, I don't know, the title, start learning about Linux, okay? And it shouldn't be inside of the API response, right? So let me try that. I'm gonna run this again, and you can see that the expected value, start learning about Linux, is not inside of the array of results that we had before. You can see start learning about cloud, also the buy milk, to do, and also the wash dishes, right? So we are making sure that my assertion is working fine. If you see something wrong and you have an improvement idea or request, I'll be more than happy to read your comment in the video. So just give me your feedback. I'll be more than happy to learn from my mistakes, okay? So once I have done this, let's continue with the video talking about how you can update a to-do by API request. Talking about how you can update a to-do in the to-do list, okay? So let's do it. I'll be just creating the to-do in the application. Then I want to make sure that I can get it correctly. Now I should have it correctly rendered that in my UI. That's cool. And then I want to make sure that I can update to-do. How you can do it? Well, I'll be following the same process. I'll be creating a constant with the name update to do response, right? And instead of sending a get or a post request, I'll be sending a patch request, okay? As you can see, well, the difference here is that now the endpoint requires an additional data, the ID that of the resource that you want to update. So for instance, you can reference the same or the ID that I just posted before, the ID number 3, right? So if you want to do it in this way, that's an approach, or obviously every single API is different, right? But that's a way of how I figure it out in this one. So now that you know where you want to send your API request, the patch request, then you need to send the body, just in the same way you did it when you created a new one, right, over here. So you can see that I am sending the data right here, and well, in this case, I'm sending the completed object that I have here with the completed properties set to true. All right, that's beautiful. Now, as soon as I send that to the API, I want to make sure that the response, right, now has the body that completed equal to true, right? Because that's important. I want to make sure that the response has that particular value in the completed property, and also the title in case I want to do it, right? I'm just giving you an idea of how you can access the title as well if you need to test it individually. So this is the way of how you can do it. And that's it. Let me run it for you, the test. Okay, I'm gonna run this. This is it. You can see that, for instance, the true is now the assertion that I wanted. Start learning about cloud. And if you take a look at the UI, you can see that now the start learning about cloud to do is completed. Okay, so the last step in this video is about how to delete this using an API request. You delete that to do in the to-do list. It's gonna be pretty easy. Actually, it is the same structure that we have in the update. Let me show you this. Now we have the last test here, which is should delete an existing to do by API request. Nope. And then you can see here that basically I just declared a new constant, delete to do response, which is going to have the response from the request that delete operation that I'll be doing in the next line. And you can see that I'm just sending the same parameter that I sent before in the request that patch. I need to delete a single to do, so I need to specify the ID using this particular line, right? That's something that we discussed in the last part of the video, in the last topic, in the patch one, right? And that's it. You can see that I'm just making sure that the status of that request is equal to 200, and that's all that I wanted to do. Of course, you can do more assertions, more stuff depending on the scenario and what you need to do. I hope that you're seeing the functionality of this. So you can see that in my UI right now, I do have the start learning about cloud. And if I run this request, now it is gone because it is working perfectly fine. So masters, I hope that you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for joining and watch it until the end. Please let me know in the comment sections, what do you think about this? Do you have any feedback about my code? Do you have any improvement idea? Do you like it? Did you like it? Did you learn something new? And this was JoanMedia. Thank you very much for watching this video, and see you in the next one. Bye.